Hi, I'm Julie from Fabric Garden, and I'm just going to give you a quick basic introductory tutorial on English paper piecing. English paper piecing has been around for at least since the 1700s, and it did start in Britain, which is probably why it's referred to as English paper piecing. It's not to be confused with foundation piecing or with paper piecing. English paper piecing, you have a piece of fabric that you baste to a foundation paper. This paper here is a 1-inch hexagon. Hexagons are pretty much the most common form of papers. But you can have diamonds, you can have triangles, you can have rhomboids, you can have circles. But it is a way to get a nice crisp seam. Something like this that has all these points, it would be hard to get under a sewing machine. So if you've got a lot of Y seams, you might consider doing English paper piecing. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do it. This, like I said, this is a 1-inch piece of hexagon, and hexagons are measured from this point over to this point, not across the center. So in order to baste this on, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You want to have your fabric cut larger than your square. You need to have a minimum of a 1/4-inch seam allowance, and I actually prefer a 3/8 inch seam allowance. 1/2 inch is too big, a 1/4 inch can be too small if you're not centering this exactly. 3/8 is a little more forgiving. So I'm going to show you the first way to do this is to thread baste. And I like to take my Wonder Clip and I will just hook it onto the bottom here of my paper. And when you're thread basting, you can use up all of your extra fabric, extra thread. It doesn't have to match. If you've got a lot of, like I've got several bobbins here that I'm not using, they've got different color threads on them, I want to get rid of them, but there's too much thread on there to throw away, so I am just going to use it up in my paper piecing. So I'm going to tie a knot in my thread. Hopefully I have a long enough piece of thread here. And you can, I'm going to show you, the first way I'll show you is to actually sew through the paper. Excuse me, can't get my knot in. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to actually sew through the paper. And the paper is thin enough that you can sew through it, and you will still be able to reuse this several times. So I will just go right through the back, and let's see, I'm trying to see here, and I'm just going to go over here to the other side, just like that. And when I get to the next corner, I will fold it in and take a little tuck through there. I'm kind of, see if you can see that on there like that. And then I'm going to take a little bite there on the corner just to tack that edge down. So I don't really have to go all the way around. I can show you on this piece here, which I've already done, and you can see there is thread on the outside, and this is how it looks on that side. And so that is thread basted on through the papers. You can also, especially if you've got something this small, you can also thread baste without going through the paper. And in order to do that, I'm sorry, I should have had this needle all ready to go, but I'm going to take my thread from my unused bobbin here, and I will hopefully get the needle threaded without too much issue. Okay, and again, I'm going to tie a knot in here. And you can use your preferred method of knot tying. And again, I've clipped my fabric on, and I am going to just make my little corner, fold it in like at a nice 45-degree angle, and all I'm doing is I'm going to catch just that corner on there, and when I come around to the next side, I will fold the paper over like that and catch that corner. And I'm going to go back around and I will catch the next corner. Sorry, maybe the camera should be behind me, but there. So I'm there, just like that. And so here's one that I have done. You can see on this side you do not see any thread baste, but on this side you can see all the thread there. So the advantage of this method is you don't have to remove that thread because it doesn't show on the right side. Obviously you can remove it if you want to, but you don't have to. The third method is to glue baste, and that is, it's a preference. I'll show you how to do that really quick. Let me get another fabric here. So on, well, if I can find my rectangle. Sorry guys, I thought this was ready. You know what? This was supposed to be thread basted, not through the paper, but I guess I accidentally stuck it into the paper. Anyway, when you are glue basting, you want to make sure that you do not use a craft glue. If you have something like Elmer's glue, number one, it's too thick, but number two, it's might not be safe for your fabric. It's not archival, so it could, in the long run, ruin your fabric. We do like the Soline glue pens, and these are archival, so they're not going to hurt your fabric. And I'm going to just tilt the camera down just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here when I'm gluing this down. So I have my square of fabric, and I've got my hexagon. And I am going to put just a little wonder clip at the top just to hold it in place so that it doesn't move on me, just for a little bit. When you do this, you don't need a whole lot of glue. You don't need a heavy hand. And you're just going to do one swipe across the bottom of the hexagon, trying not to get on the edge of the paper because you don't want your needle to have to go through that glue. And then you're just going to push it up like that and baste it, and then you're going to go to the next side. And you're going to do the same thing. And again, you're folding in that corner at a 45-degree angle, and you're going to continue like that all the way around. You've got the 45-degree angle there, and you're going to continue that way. And one more time all the way around. I will be honest, this is not my preferred method, but I think it's because I'm just not used to it. I learned thread basting, and I enjoy it. It's calming, and I like doing it that way. But once you get the idea, once you get the hang of it, I did not do a very good job of that. I told you it's not my favorite way to do it, but it can be done. So that is glue basting, and it does take a little bit more practice to do the glue than it does to do the thread, I think. So once you have all of your pieces together and ready to go, then you need to sew them down. And I'm going to use, there's several different ways you can do this. I like to use a 10 straw needle. We have the Jenna Kimball straw needles here in the shop, and I like the size 10 because it's nice and thin, and it it goes through the fabric nice and easily. I'm going to tie a knot 3 or 4 times, wrap it around your needle, and pull it down. If you've got a little tail there, you can clip off the tail. Okay, and I'm using a contrasting thread. The thread that I like to use is, it's a dual duty thread that is made for English paper piecing. It is 100% polyester. And the reason that I like the polyester is because you are sewing through multiple layers and you're going through, you know, your thread is crossing across the paper a lot of different times. And with a polyester thread, it won't fray quite so easily. That being said, I have certainly used cotton thread. If I have something that I really want to make sure that I match the color perfectly, then I will use a DMC 50 weight embroidery thread and just not use a very long piece of thread, just so that it doesn't go over that, go over the paper that many times. So if it's not gonna match exactly, like I have these two hexagons here, one's red and one is beige. For the camera purposes, I am using a dark thread. However, I probably would use a light gray thread. So Grandmother's Flower Garden with a hexagon is probably the easiest English paper piecing to start with. And to sew these hexagons together, you're going to start with your center. And so this one is my center, these are my petals, and you're going to put them right sides together. And then you will take your thread that has the knot in the end, and you're going to go up through the outside, so you come up at the point. And then you're going to sew across at the corner and just picking up 2 or 3 threads at a time. And what you're going to do is you're going to sew in place. If I can get it in there, you're going to sew in place about 3 times. And then I will tie a little knot, and that is I'm just going to take my needle and just loop it around twice, and that will secure my thread. Now, you do not need 100 stitches on here. 8 to 10 stitches per inch is enough to, really secure your fabric. You have to make sure that you're going in at a 90-degree angle to the paper. And you also have to make sure that you do not sew through the paper. So I'm going to go from back to front, and I am just picking up 2 or 3 threads at once. If you can see that, not very well really. And you're just going to pull that through. If you are going at a 45-degree angle, like a true whip stitch, your stitches will show on the front. But again, you're only going to pick up like 2 or 3 threads from the front fabric, 2 or 3 threads from the back fabric, and it looks like the whip stitch on the back, but hopefully it's not going to show up on the front. And I'm just taking a pretty big stitch here just for the video. So when I get back here to the next corner, I am going to do the same thing I did at the beginning, and I'm just taking 3 stitches, and I'm going to stitch that in place, and I'm going to tie another knot, and then that way, if my thread breaks or whatever, I only have to go back that far because I know that it's knotted. And you can see, even though I've used a contrasting thread, it's not that noticeable on the front because of the way I did the stitches. If I had done the true whip stitch like it is here on the back, you would be able to see that on the front. So I have this other sample here that I have already made. Okay, so on this one, I attached the center to the petal, and then I put another petal on. And My thread is tangled, I'm sorry. There we go. So when I sewed this on, I'm right-handed, so I sewed from here over to here. And then I sewed, you know, from here to here, and now I ended up on this side. So you can just run your needle through to get back here. I don't know that made sense, but okay. So now I'm back here at this. So I'm folding up my. I have to fold my paper in half, but that's okay. It's not going to hurt it. I'm going to stitch again. Take my 3 stitches in the corner, and I'm going to stitch all the way across to the other side. And then when I get over there, I can attach another petal here. So you're going to end up with a flower that looks like this. All of these papers are still in place. When you are doing this, do not take these papers out until you have something next to it. On this particular flower, I can take the center paper out, but I won't take any of these out until I have attached another flower or a background, or something like that. So this particular one I have basted in, so I'm just going to pop those threads, and I'll show you how easy it is to get out. Well, it's always easy when you're not in a hurry. Okay, so okay, so then I can just pop that out. I've still got my center is in place. And then I can reuse this paper. You can reuse these papers 4 or 5 times, maybe even 6 times, especially if you haven't basted through them. You can reuse them a lot. There are several different things you can do. I just wanted to show you, we do have this pattern for this poinsettia tree skirt, and it comes with all the papers in it that you will need, and we are thinking of doing a sew along with that, but I just wanted to show you, this is one of the poinsettias in the skirt. I have not removed all of the papers. There does come a point when you do want to take them out. On this one, I have taken these parts out because I was sewing up here. If I had left all these papers in, it's too hard to crinkle this up and sew the next piece on. I'm ready to take these papers out now, and I can take those out, and it's going to be much easier to handle. You can crinkle this all up and it'll be fine. On these two, some of these I have taken a hole punch and poked a hole in the paper just to make it a little easier to pop it out. You don't have to do that. It popped, as you saw, the other one didn't have a hole in it. It pops out pretty easily without that. And so the other thing, this is, I had mentioned earlier, the grandmother's flower garden. This is just a quick little quilt that I made using the grandmother's flower garden pattern. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for fabrics. So something you can do is I took a charm pack and I cut it into quarters. That gave me 2.5-inch squares, which are perfect for these 1-inch hexagons. And the background is all 1-inch hexagons as well. So there are a lot of different things you can do. And again, it doesn't have to be hexagons. You can see in this one, this is a hexagon in the center, but these are diamonds, these are rectangles. So there are a lot of different things you can do. I've got, this is another one here, part of the poinsettia tree skirt. The other thing I did want to mention too is you can get an acrylic template that is cut to size. So this one is a 1-inch hexagon template with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. and we can order these for you if you like. A nice thing about this is it does give you the option. I'm going to move the camera down again to see if I can show you. I have this paper here with all these cute little animals, fabric, excuse me, with these cute little animals on it. So if you have a template that has a hole in it that you can see through, you can actually place it on the fabric. Let me move it over a little bit, this way I guess. So you can actually move it and place it where you want the motif to be. I don't know if you can see that. So this, I've got the penguin is centered. And then you can just take a rotary cutter and you can cut around there. As soon as you've got it placed, you can just cut it and cut it, or you can even take scissors and just roughly cut it, as long as you've got the seam allowance in place. But so, my blade I need a new blade. But there you go. So that would be how you can do using the rotary cutter. And actually, for the poinsettia tree skirt, I actually did have templates that I used to cut out all my pieces, and that did make it go a little bit quicker. So I could just, again, take the rotary cutter and just zip around the acrylic templates and cut them out, and I've got them all ready to go. So that is a quick lesson in English paper piecing. I will warn you though, it can be very addictive. So once you get started, you're not going to want to stop. But I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And if you have any questions, feel free to give the shop a call or come in and let us know. And anybody that works here can give you a hand and help you. We do have the paper pieces here. The acrylic templates, we usually have to order. So if you are interested in those, just let us know. So thank you very much for listening, and enjoy your English paper piecing. Thank you.